Welcome to Art Bell Somewhere in Time. Tonight featuring Coast to Coast AM from February 2nd, 1996.
From the high desert and the great American Southwest, I bid you all good evening and good morning on what is going to be a very different, intriguing kind of night tonight. From the west out in the Tahitian and Hawaiian Islands, east into the Caribbean and the U.S. Virgin Islands, south into South America, north all the way to the pole. This is Coast to Coast AM. I'm Art Bell. We've got a very special guest, and I'll tell you all about her in a moment. And I know I'm going to slaughter her name. She is Krsana Duran, and she will talk to us about UFOs, crop circles, the Mayan calendar, particularly the Mayan calendar. So I'll tell you more about Krsana in just a moment. You're listening to CBC. It's a Friday night, Saturday morning, and it's going to be a wild one, folks. There's going to be a million things going on at one time. So stay right where you are. We'll be right back. All right, now, Krsana Duran is an author and researcher of crop circles, UFOs, and the Mayan and dream spell calendars. We're going to find out what those are. Using the information she discovered in 2 U.S. crop circles that formed a triangle with the sun and moon pyramids near Mexico City, she identified... Mexico City, boy, there's a lot going on there. She identified a 52-day cycle related to lunar eclipses. The November 28, 1995 magnetic shift in Sacramento, California, occurred on the 52nd day after a lunar eclipse. Now, based on that cycle, she predicted 3 dates for storms, power failures, and earthquakes or volcanoes on longitude lines where crop circles have appeared. Those events happened on the dates she predicted. She has a new book on the message of the crop circles and the pyramids in Mexico, A New History, The Once and Future Earth. And we'll be telling you how to get that. Let us go now. As a matter of fact, I don't even know where she is. I suspect somewhere up in the, by the area code, maybe in the American Northwest. Krsana, are you there?
I am.
Am I slaughtering your name?
No, you're doing great.
Krsana Duran, correct?
Krsana Duran.
Krsana Duran. Okay. Krsana, it's hard to know where to begin. First of all, I have never fully understood what the Mayan calendar is and how it differs from our calendar. So let us begin with the basics, because if I don't know, a lot of other people don't know either.
Okay. Well, I'm going to start off. I started working with the Mayan concept in '92 after I got involved with Jose Arguelles' dream spell. The dream spell is not the Mayan calendar.
What is it?
Well, it's based on the same geometry as the Mayan calendar and the same numbers. But what it did was, and I'll explain this in a minute, is that it calibrated a time shift into the Mayan calendar.
There are many people who believe that the Mayan calendar has been misinterpreted, and that by 6 or 7 years?
Well, okay. Yes, and you're going to get a lot of numbers on that, and I will tell you that the Mayan calendar is a very complex calendar, that the end dates for that calendar have been projected anywhere from 1957 to 2050.
All right, let's back up. Where did the Mayan calendar come from?
Okay, the Mayan calendar came from the Maya tribe, the native people in Central America up by Guatemala. They appeared as a people, as a distinct tribal entity about 2,000 years ago. Okay. Before that, they were they came out of the Olmec native people, who date back to about 2000 BC up along the Gulf of Mexico.
All right. In what way is the Mayan calendar different from the one up here on my wall?
Okay. Well, now I'm going to add a couple of things here, okay?
All right.
I know you've had Zachariah Sitchin on your show.
Absolutely.
Okay. Zachariah Sitchin's last book was called When Time Began.
When Time Began, yes.
And it dealt with the Mayan calendar, and it on the premise that the Mayan calendar was actually implemented by the Egyptian Sumerian Thoth. That Thoth was exiled from Egypt around 3100 BC, and that he went to Mesoamerica, that when he arrived in Mesoamerica, the Mayan calendar, which is based on the number 52, began to appear in the area, and that Thoth's personal number was 52.
All right. Why is it based on 52? In other words, what science is behind that?
Okay, well, this is what the whole key to the whole subject is.
Okay.
The Mayan calendar, basically it has a sacred calendar and a civil calendar. Mm-hmm. The sacred calendar is a 260-day calendar, and the civil calendar is a 360-day calendar. And the Maya depicted these two calendars like two cogs that were running together, simultaneously, parallel running, and then they synchronized with the same dates every 52 years. So if you take your 52 as your base number, which it is, then a 52-day cycle is 1/365th of a 52-year cycle. So 52 days is the equivalent of 1 year in the 52-year cycle. So the calendar is based on the number 52.
Okay.
And there's been a lot of discussions, there's been a lot of debates. Why this number 52? What's so important about this number 52?
Well, I would like to tell you that I now understand, but I don't. So,
well, let me tell you what I discovered.
Well, all right, hold on.
Okay.
I ate this last half hour alive. I had so many announcements, so we're at a break point, and we will come back, and we will find out what 52 means. All right?
Yes.
All right, good. Krsana Duran is my guest, and she's going to talk about the Mayan calendar, and there's a shocking and important reason why you understand this, so stay right where you are.
You're listening to Art Bell, Somewhere in Time. Tonight featuring a replay of Coast to Coast AM from February 2nd, 1996.
No one waiting by your side.
Good morning. We are going to make Krsana tell us in language we can all understand, because I don't quite get it yet, why the Mayan calendar is based on 52, the number 52, and we're going to get to that in just a second. All right, Krsana?
Uh-huh.
All right, let's try this again now, because I didn't quite get it. The Mayan calendar, remember you're talking to people who don't know a thing about this, is based on the number 52.
Right.
And I still don't quite understand where that number comes from, or why it's based on that.
Well, nobody else does either, Art, and that's what the key is. There's some people say, well, it's because of a 52-year cycle in the Pleiades, but I'm going to tell you a crop circle sequence, okay, based on that number 2. It started, I'm in Seattle, by the way.
Oh, Seattle, all right. All right, so anyway, the bottom line is we've got to make things simple. Nobody knows why it's, you say it was, the Mayan calendar began 3,000 years before Christ?
Yes, 3113 BC.
All right, so then it's entirely possible that we've lost track of why it's based on 52.
Absolutely. You're absolutely correct.
All right, next question I've got for you is it just a calendar, Krsana, or are there events scheduled.
There are events, but Art, could we go back to the crop circles for a minute?
We may indeed.
Okay. In 1993, there were two major crop circles made in the U.S. One was in Kennewick, Washington, and the other one was in New York State.
I knew about Kennewick, and yes, I knew about New York.
Herkimer, up by Herkimer, New York.
Right, that's right. We had a report.
Okay. And I was keeping track of crop circles and UFO activity at that time. I had a world map on the wall, and I was using pins to track activity. And I noticed that those two crop circles formed a perfect triangle with the Sun and Moon Pyramid in Mexico City. Mm-hmm. And when I say perfect, I mean on the money. If you do your measurements on a globe, each leg of that triangle is 2,160 miles long.
Wow.
Which is the number of years in a celestial age. Okay?
All right.
And then I noticed that the crop circles were made 52 days apart.
Okay.
The July crop circle was discovered on the 53rd day after the Kennewick crop circle. The next thing I noticed was that directly beneath those crop circles, we were having earthquakes. The North Ridge epicenter was directly beneath Kennewick, within 1 degree of that longitude line.
Wow.
Remember the big Bolivian earthquake that cut through the crust?
I do.
That was directly below Herkimer.
Huh.
Okay? So at that point, I was really getting interested. Okay, let's see. July 21, 1993, at that time we were having huge flooding in the Midwest. Remember that?
Very well.
Okay. It was also exactly 1 year from the date that Shoemaker-Levy collided with Jupiter.
What was 1 year from the date? The flooding?
The flooding and the crop circle.
Oh, and the crop circle, okay.
Because on July 21, 1994, we were watching comets collide with Jupiter.
I recall.
Okay, so I did some numbers, and I noticed that the day that those comets began to collide with Jupiter was 52 days after a lunar eclipse. So the crop circles were made 52 days apart.
All of this is numerology, isn't it, really?
No, it's not. What we're talking about is a synergetic factor of whole systems. That's what 52 really is. But to get you to the point where you see why it is, I have to take you through the sequences. Mm-hmm. And the law of synergy of whole systems is a principle that Buckminster Fuller used. And the principle is simply that synergy is a factor in whole systems that behaves differently than any of the single parts. So, like using a car as an example of a whole system, you have it takes a carburetor, it takes batteries, it takes a lot of different individual parts to run that car.
Correct.
But when it's running, the whole system assumes a quality that cannot be predicted by any one of the parts.
Synergistic.
That's the synergy factor.
Okay.
And my bottom line theory, which is working, and the evidence that it's a workable theory, is that it's accurately predicting an incredible event. Is that the reason that Thoth, the Lord of Astronomy and Calendrics, who was a planetary scientist, used the number 52 is because it's the number of synergy of this solar system. And that there's an underlying cycle of 52 in this solar system. And that's the reason you get Shoemaker-Levy colliding with Jupiter. That's 52 days after an eclipse. It's not, the eclipse didn't cause the comets to collide, but
couldn't I play these games? In other words, at 52, I could look back for something that occurred and say, well, all right, this occurred 52 days ago, so that means this. In other words, how do you prove?
You predict.
You predict, and your
and
predictions.
I did predict.
All right, what have you predicted that has come true?
Okay. Well, the first thing I predicted, and I didn't quite know why it worked at this point, but back in '94, when I first got a set of maps put together. I predicted that the volcano in Mexico City was going to erupt, and it did, when I said it would, within 10 days. That one, I still didn't have the numbers totally correct. I was 10 days off. They evacuated 30,000 people from Mexico City on December 21, 1994, and I predicted it in November. So there's one.
All right.
I predicted the storms and the power failures all along the 120 longitude line that happened on December 13 and 15 this year, 95. I predicted that the volcano would go off in the Aleutians on the exact date. Well, I had a 3-day window. It was 20 to 23rd of December.
By the way, Krsana, let me ask you, because somebody in the audience will.
Okay.
It's easy to sit here and say, I predicted. Where did you record these predictions prior to their occurrence?
Well, in both cases, I had articles being published in magazines, and I had articles on editor's desk.
And you had these predictions in the articles?
I had the articles already to be printed, and I faxed the predictions to the editors.
Okay.
And one of them is on the newsstands this month. And I faxed the predictions.
Where?
Magical Blend. It's on national newsstands.
All right.
And I faxed the predictions to him 2 weeks before the event occurred.
All right. Well, that's good. That's important, because when you just rattle off predictions, it is very impressive. But if you had not told anybody beforehand, not to doubt you, but we have no way.
Well, let me put it like this.
Obviously, of knowing.
I'm not I appreciate psychics. I am a psychic, but I don't rely on psychic data exclusively. And I would prefer to find a method that anyone can use, that it's a matter of understanding the system and what the numbers of that system are, because then it's in anybody's hands.
All right, I want to take you a little bit off track for a second. I got a report 2 days ago, Krsana, of an incredible UFO down in Mexico City.
Yeah.
That thousands of people saw.
Yeah.
And a couple of people called up and went, boo-hoo-hoo, I don't believe that. And then I got a videotape. I've got it on videotape, Krsana. I've got this UFO on videotape moving. A craft, a visible craft moving.
Right.
So I saw it myself. It got to me in Spanish, but it doesn't matter. It was taken by a Spanish TV station. That's item one.
Okay.
Hundreds of thousands of people are so, well, let me finish.
Okay.
Hundreds of thousands of people are seeing UFOs in Mexico City.
That's right.
I've seen them. Now, I just got a fax 5 minutes ago. Art, did you happen to catch the BBC report this evening about the UFO incident in England near the end of last year? British Airways flight sighted a UFO, came so close, one of the pilots actually ducked. They described the UFO as looking like a Christmas tree, and an artist's rendering of the thing was shown as they saw it.
Right.
It was said to have happened over Manchester, England, near the end of 1995, not reported until it had been thoroughly checked out. The object was not picked up by any radar operation anywhere in Britain. The crew just cannot believe it was not apparent on radar, as it was quite large, compared to their plane. Thought you might be interested in this. The report was repeated by ABC News, KTLA in Los Angeles on their 10 o'clock news tonight.
Right.
So these reports of UFOs, what's going on down in Mexico?
Well, that started in 91. Are you aware of that?
Are you referring to Mexico now?
Yeah, the Mexico activity started on the eclipse of July 11th, 1991. That there had been a Mayan prophecy that was made in 577 A.D., that on that eclipse, that the galactic Maya, that the galactic ancestors would return from the sky, and that it would begin the era of the sixth sun of the Maya, that it would be attended with enormous earthquakes, and that it would be the beginning of cosmic consciousness for the people of Earth, and that on that date, July 11th, 1991, during the eclipse, while the eclipse on that date was focused over Mexico City.
Yes, I do recall that, and that's when it began.
That's right. And it was the most highly documented UFO activity ever in history, because you had hundreds of thousands of people in the largest metropolitan area in the world with their video cameras to record the eclipse, and a UFO came and hovered.
I know. I've seen it.
And they got hundreds of videos of it, and they got a shot of a hyperleap on that day.
I saw that as well.
And then
you know, people are sitting out there going, "Yeah, right. Come on." I have video of all of this. You know, this Krsana is not just blowing hot wind here. These things are recorded on photographs, still photographs, moving video. I've got copies. I'm telling you, it's true.
And what's so amazing is that they showed up on the date of the eclipse of July 11th, 1991, which was the beginning of the Maya's sixth sun and the age of cosmic awareness.
So you regard this then, Krsana, as validation of the accuracy, as you believe it to be, of the Mayan calendar, right?
Well, there's a little more to it. Yes, I do. And by the way, the Mayan calendar, in terms of its accuracy, predicted eclipses over thousands of years within 33 seconds of accuracy. That is an accurate calendar.
Well, that's another good mark of accuracy, yes. All right, now, I guess in the interest of time, Krsana, I want to know what lies ahead for us. I think you pretty well established the Mayan calendar seems to be on the mark. Instead of talking about what it has done in the past, I would like to know what the Mayan calendar tells us about the future.
Wonderful. Because that is what got Jose Arguelles so interested in it. Because after 5,000 years of being the most accurate calendar on the planet, it suddenly comes to a screeching end in 2012. On the winter solstice, December 23rd, 2012, it just ends.
It ends.
It just stops. And Arguelles said, well, why? Why is it stopping? And he was of Mexican descent. His father was Mexican. He was born in Mexico, and then they moved to the U.S. He became a whole systems anthropologist and a professor of art.
All right, Krsana, you said it yourself. Zachariah Sitchin has written a book called When Time Began.
Mm-hmm.
Is that when time ends?
No, it is when we end a cycle of time. Because, see, the whole thing is that the Mayan calendar is a cyclic calendar. It correlates huge astronomical cycles. And in when the calendar started in 3113, and you get like 7 major numbers. It's really a very complex calendar, but they all read 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0.
The beginning. At the beginning.
Yes. Now, through 5,125 years, which was the entire duration of the calendar, at these different numbers have been constantly in change through all these years. Well, in 2012, they zero out again, and all the numbers read 0, 0, 0, 0, 0 again.
So the calendar then begins again.
Yes, precisely.
All right. What will the harbingers be? What will occur between now and then? What are the major events on the calendar? Because these, Krsana, are strange times. There's no question about it. NBC, it's funny, began their evening newscast tonight by saying about the following words: "We are running out of words to describe the winter of '96. Now, this is followed by people who are running out of words to describe the hurricane season we had last year.
Right.
And, everybody talks about the weather, and I'm beginning to wonder whether somebody is doing something about it to change it around a little bit. Something's going on. There's no question about it.
There's no question about it, and I will tell you, according to my calculations, and I'm going to make the prediction right now, if I'm right, I'm right, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. The next lunar eclipse is going to be on April 3rd, 1996. The 52nd day will be May 25th, and then that day starts a 13-day window. That'll go into June.
April 3rd, 1996 begins a how many day window?
Okay, April 3rd is the eclipse. It's a lunar eclipse.
Right.
Then your 52nd day is May 25th.
May 25th, right. That's right.
Okay. And then the full cycle is a 65-day cycle, so you still have another 13 days. But those 13 days are the heavy ones because the cycle's been building for 52 days then it starts peaking out on the 52nd. And so I can tell you to look at that window.
Look at it for what?
You're going to see an increasing amount of magnetic activity, electromagnetic phenomena, which affect storms. You're going to see power failures on longitude lines that have been marked with crop circles. And there's one other thing. There's a 9-degree zone. This is very, very critical. From those pyramids, I have done a map based on 4 ancient monuments on the planet, and my theory was this, that at one time, there were planetary scientists of galactic origin residing on this planet. They built colonies and they built settlements, just like Zechariah Sitchin says. And they were not, because we have so little information, we go real woo-woo, but these guys were not woo-woo. When you are colonizing planets, you've got your stuff together, and you are a scientist, and you know what you're doing, and you're very precise, and there's nothing sloppy about what
Are you
do.
suggesting we were colonized, in effect, by these people?
Right. And that's what the whole premise of
Well, now you're in trouble. People are going to say, what do you mean we're colonized by these people? The Bible says God created Earth in a few days.
Well,
that's part of a week.
Then they just got here on the 8th day, you know. I'm not going to argue with anyone's belief system about God.
All right, fine.
I do believe in God and I believe in creation, but I also believe that and the Pope agrees with me, by the way, that there are many souls and many entities from many realms, that we're not the only one. And in one of the recent, in the last decade, the Pope has asked for people to pray for others in all the mansions of creation. You know,
that is true.
So these guys were out cruising the galaxy, and they stopped by after God finished the creation, and I have no problem with that.
Okay,
it's a long creation.
Well, that does mesh the religious faith with your view of the way events occurred.
Right.
So we're in for some big storms, earthquakes, magnetic activity, that sort of thing, right?
Absolutely, and I'm going to quote the Bible, and I'm going to show you exactly where the Bible tells you the same thing if you want me to. If you don't want me to talk about the Bible, I won't.
Well, I don't mind anybody talking about the Bible. As a general rule, I don't allow Bible quoting, but so paraphrase it. What does the Bible say?
Okay, in the first day, in the first verse of Genesis, the light was separated from the dark. Okay, so the Bible starts with light. And in the last book, which is Revelations, in the 21st chapter, the light is discussed again by John. And what he mentions here, it's really interesting because the numbers mesh with the Mayan calendar.
Okay.
He gives some numbers in there. I'm looking for it. I did a little article on this. Basically, in the 21st chapter of Revelations, John says that he saw that the old earth and the old heaven had passed away, and that there was a new heaven and a new earth in its place. And he says that the New Jerusalem descended from heaven, and that he measured the walls thereof, and they were 144 cubits, according to the measure of a man, that is, of the angel.
Yes.
And the city has no need of the sun, neither of the moon, to shine in it, for the glory of God did lighten it, and the Lamb is the light thereof, and the nations of them which are saved shall walk in the light of it.
All right, hold it right there, Krsana. We're at the top of the hour. We'll take a break, and we will come back, and we will pin her down about what's coming up on the Mayan calendar, which does sound kind of accurate. Stay right there. Once again, I am here, and I've got a guest. Her name is Krsana Duran, and she's talking about the Mayan calendar. And a lot of what we covered in the first hour was kind of technical, trying to establish an understanding of why the Mayan where it came from, which is about 3,100 years before Christ, and its accuracy. We did that in the first hour. Now we're going to explore what the Mayan calendar says is coming up. That's next, so stay right where you are. It's really necessary to establish what it is, why it is, and its accuracy. So we did that. A little bit later in the program this morning, I'm going to do something I've never done. Bring my mom on the air, and you can ask her questions. You better not ask embarrassing questions. Hear me? All right, back now to Krsana Duran, and Krsana up in Seattle, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay, Krsana, what I am now interested in, I think you have adequately established the accuracy of the Mayan calendar. I want to ask you this. I just got a fax. Interesting. The calendar found in the pyramids on the walls ends May 5th, 2001. Ask Krsana if she is aware of that, and is that a cycle? Randy.
Well, I'll tell you what. Yes, it is. It is part of the cycle. And I'll tell you, and I don't want to get into numbers, because when you start talking the calendar, it's so mathematically based, you can start breaking your
eyes begin to glaze over out there, and people don't know what you're talking about.
Exactly.
I'm happy with what you've established, so don't try to do it anymore.
Okay, but just I'm going to quickly just zoom through a number here. Half of 52 is 26, and half of 26 is 13.
Right.
Okay? So the year 2000 starts the last 13-year cycle of the calendar. And we have a major lineup occurring in May of 2000, where Jose Arguelles believes, and Edgar Casey concurs, that we're having a huge set of astronomical events that will very likely cause a pole shift. Now, when we talk pole shift, we're not talking about the planet falling over or, going out of orbit. We're talking about a magnetic shift.
I understand that, but I have talked with several guests who suggest a pole shift does not occur slowly. It occurs almost instantly, actually. And when it occurs, you could expect winds in the order of 800 miles an hour.
Mm-hmm. Well, okay. We don't really know that, though. See, we don't really know what to expect.
Well, some of this is geologic data, very old geologic data, and they can look at strata and look at this kind of thing. If the poles were to shift, it would have a dramatic effect.
It could. It could. During recorded history, during periods of civilization,
yes,
we do not have a pole shift that we can use to compare with.
That's certainly true.
So I'm not jumping to any conclusions about that, and I know that there's a lot of people who really kind of, think it's going to be severe, and it will be severe. But I also want to point something else out, that the human race has been evolving for many millions of years, and the fact that we're still standing here on this planet means somehow we survived.
Right.
And we've survived many, many, many catastrophic periods on this planet because the nature of a planet is to go through cycles of change. That's her form of evolution.
Sure.
And we have survived with her. So somehow I have a tremendous faith that humanity is going to survive this change. There will be, we need to understand the nature of the change so we can cope with it.
Well, like so many people of your genre, Krsana, they say, yes, we will survive. Gordon Michael Scallion, others who do predictions say, yes, humanity will survive, but there will be millions who will expire in the process.
I agree with that. And there were millions who expired in the Black Plague in Europe.
That's true.
And when the Black Plague was over, Europe blossomed.
That is true.
I know.
and so, Krsana, and here's another thing. I'm not in your league. I'm not in the league of Gordon Michael Scallion. I'm a talk show host.
Right.
I monitor events. I look at the news every day religiously. I'm in touch with everything electronically. And for some time now, I've been talking about what I call, I'm sure you've heard it, the quickening,
Yes.
which is, to me, nothing more than an honest, objective, I believe, observation of things that are beginning to change at an increasingly rapid pace, a very rapid pace.
Yes.
Socially, economically, politically, the weather. I don't care. You pick the area. Things are changing. I can feel it.
You're right. They are. They are. And there are reasons for it. And it has to do with the basic environment of the planet. Humans human body is an electrical system.
Absolutely.
And the brain has magnetic microparticles in it.
Yes, that's correct.
So anything that affects the electrical potential on this planet affects human bodies and the way humans think, because they are electronic systems.
I believe that could be so, yes.
And the evidence very clearly says, because you know that whenever you have a magnetic field, you always have a corresponding electrical field or electrical current.
Correct.
So when you're getting dramatic magnetic shift, you are getting a corresponding shift in electrical potential somewhere in the system.
I'll buy that.
Pardon me?
I said I'll buy that.
And it's subtle. And we know that somehow this planet is being electrically charged every day, because it's the planet herself does have an electrical charge. She has a negative electrical charge, and the atmosphere has a positive electrical charge.
Absolutely. And
it's the interplay between the two that create this whole system of planetary life.
Mm-hmm.
Or I won't say create it, but power it. And their human body is a part of that. So when you're getting a dramatic shift in planetary environment of electrical and magnetic factors, you're going to get a corresponding shift in human behavior.
Well, we sure are getting that.
Yes, we are. And
we're also getting changes in our environment.
Absolutely.
So, all of this does, to me, mesh together. Something is changing, and the question is, since you're an expert in Mayan Calendar, what do we have to look forward to between now and the ending of this cycle?
Well, that was what we have to look forward to, from the best that I can tell, from the Revelations where it spoke about the sun and the moon.
Yes.
In the 21st chapter of Revelations. And the last cycle of the Mayan calendar is symbolized by the sun. So what we're getting is a shift in solar activity. And you know that solar flares affect magnetics.
Oh, boy, do I. Look, I'm a ham radio operator. I monitor solar flares. I monitor solar storms. I monitor the A and K index. That part of it I pay attention to. And I'm telling you, right now, it's really weird out there.
It's really weird. And because, you see, in all the prophecies, in all of these systems, the sun is indicated at the end as being the critical change factor.
Oh, it would do it all right.
And that the sun is going through a phase shift.
Uh-huh.
And so it's causing a corresponding shift in electrical potential on this planet, which is causing the magnetics to go haywire. Which is causing people to go haywire. Absolutely.
There is a story, as a matter of fact, I'm sorry to say, it's right up there near you in eastern Washington, Moses Lake. I've got an affiliate in Moses Lake, right there in Moses Lake.
That's where I live. I'm visiting Seattle.
About 150 miles east of Seattle. A student walked into a classroom today, just killed 3 people, teacher, 2 other students, wounded yet another student. That student is in custody. No motive known yet. We don't know much about it. But it's just one more story, one more of what I call the head shakers. People going nuts, kids going nuts, and taking life without reason, without care. Life has cheapened. Everything has changed, and this is just one more indication of that, Krsana.
I agree with you totally. As a matter of fact, I'm going to be very frank with you at this point, that I am a UFO experiencer, and in 1991, I was told that this would be the characteristic of what would be occurring in this period, that people who are not prepared to deal, that as these physical changes occur in our environment, it causes an actual shift in our thought patterns. It could probably be measured, you see, because we really are an electrical system. You can measure electrical systems.
All right, having said all you've just said, Krsana, there's a fellow, Dr. Nick Begich, up in Alaska. Did you get a chance to hear the show I did with him?
No, I didn't.
It's about the HAARP project.
Absolutely.
You know about HAARP?
Yes, I do.
All right, HAARP is going to literally heat the ionosphere. It's going to throw so much RF energy focused in a narrow point of the ionosphere that it's going to heat and nearly blow a hole through the ionosphere. They don't know what it's going to do. But there are a lot of people, including Dr. Begich, who feel that they're going to actually be able to bounce this signal off the ionosphere back to Earth, that they could, for example, he speculated, they could focus it on an enemy force on the battlefield and cause that entire force to be disoriented mentally.
Absolutely.
And that is kind of a specific scientific experiment that sounds exactly like the natural process that you're talking about that's going on with the sun and with magnetic storms and all the rest of it that is generally affecting all of us.
Right. There are things you can do. You see, once you understand what the process is, I live in Soap Lake, which is a natural lake. It's a salt lake in Washington State.
Right.
And the whole environment is saturated with sodium sulfate, which is different than sodium chloride. And Art, I'm telling you that I can tell an enormous difference when I'm in that area, and it's the salt. I'm positive it's the salt.
Well, salt certainly is a conductor.
Absolutely. But, there's also other mineral factors.
In fact, for those who doubt it, you can perform a basic experiment. In a glass of water, you can take one side of a 110-volt line, the other side of a 110-volt line, put it in a glass of water. It's dangerous. Don't do this. And the light will not come on. You can take a salt shaker and begin to put salt into the water, and it will cause conductivity, and that light will slowly begin to get brighter and brighter and brighter. The more the salt you put in, the more it gets bright.
Right. And, somehow it affects magnetics, and I don't know how, but it's an observation that I've made. And I also noticed, and I thought it was really funny, that up in New Mexico, they are preparing a place to bury nuclear waste.
Yeah, that's right, yes.
They're burying it in salt.
That's correct.
And salt is a very, very important factor. And just remember this, that if you're getting a shift in magnetics, how do you make a magnet? You run an electrical current through a piece of iron, and we are living on an iron-based planet.
Right.
So in our environment, understanding this, we can arrange grounds, if you want to call them that. In other words, when you understand that it's just a base, it's really what you're doing is you're running an electrical system. And
you're saying that under the circumstances, there are some safer places to be.
Absolutely.
Than others.
Absolutely.
How about the Great Salt Lake in Utah?
Well, I would say that would be an ideal place to go, except I think that the nuclear testing has really shattered the mantle up there.
Yes.
Other than that, I would head for Salt Lake City. But I do think you're getting a lot of activity up there that should not be happening, and I do think it's because of the damage that's been done with the Earth's mantle through underground testing.
All right, back to UFOs for a second. I am astounded by the photographs I'm getting from Mexico City.
Yeah.
Why are these UFOs, in your opinion, manifesting themselves in Mexico City?
Well, one thing is that that's one of their ancient centers. The Sun and Moon pyramids are very critical pyramids. Very, very critical. They're very ancient. They point out magnetics. They're oriented towards magnetic north.
It's true.
They show the relationship of Sun and Moon. And see, we keep getting the Sun and Moon coming up in these different traditions.
Right.
So what it's telling us is Sun and Moon function, but there's another reason for it, which is I've done a couple of maps, and I've done maps. If you know, I'm trying to think, if you know where your stress points are, and you know the geometry of how stress is released, because the whole point, I mean, you know, that's the whole process of change is building up stress and then finding points of release for it.
That's right.
Then if you know how that stress is going to be released, you can plot your earthquake zones. Now, one of the key stress points in the Earth grid right now is marked by those two pyramids. And the evidence, I've done a tremendous amount of research on this, is that by extending angles at 52 degrees across the globe from those two pyramids,
right.
I explained, well, I won't use the word explained. Let's put it like this. 85% of the earthquakes in the North America during a random 3-month period that I just went to the USGS and got the data was in those zones.
Mm-hmm.
In exact, precise 9-degree zones extended from those two pyramids. So those two pyramids are a stress point in the Earth grid.
Is there going to be a big West Coast earthquake?
Absolutely.
How soon?
Well, I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure because there are a lot of factors. There are a lot of factors that play into when an earthquake happens. But I will tell you that I'm looking at, I will tell you that it will be during an important astronomical alignment because of the stress and pull of living in a whole solar system with other planets.
When are we expecting such an alignment?
I say within 9 months.
Within
That's
9
my
months,
gut.
yeah.
And it will be, and it will be relative to either, it will be relative to June or December date.
All
So
right. Hold it there, Krsana. We'll be back to you, and we'll get to the phones in a moment.
You're listening to Art Bell, Somewhere in Time. Tonight featuring a replay of Coast to Coast AM from February 2nd, 1996.
My guest is Krsana Duran, and she is talking about the Mayan calendar. And I'm going to tell you what I think about this. Some of it is very hard to understand, but a great deal of what she is saying is right down the same alley, frankly, as what a lot of other people out there are saying, whether it's Gordon Michael Scallion, Zachariah Sitchin, so many people that we have interviewed. And while you might not want to consider any single person as having the answer, it really would shock and elude me that you could not consider the collective words, the prophecy, as beginning to say that, hey folks, something is about to happen. Back now to Krsana. Are you there?
Yeah, I am. Art,
yes.
Before we start, I have put a couple of maps that I did indicating zones on the Internet. So anyone who can get on the Internet can get in there and get those maps.
Okay. Tell them where to go.
Okay. The address is http:// www.blue, BLUEWATERP, period, COM/ and then a tilde, and then...
Shish.
I know. It's almost over. And then BCRISSEY.
Oh, that's horrible. Krsana, I would suggest that you get hold of the people who run my page and have a link put in. If you want a lot of people to be on there. My internet address is www.artbell.com. That's it. www.artbell.com.
Okay.
And that's an address that people can reasonably get to and write down.
Okay.
And so if there's a link to your page, then I think you'll get a lot more people on it because that's an awfully long internet address.
Yeah, we can get a link put in. But I want to say that my whole goal in this, in what I've done in my research, is to take it out of the area of specialists and put it into the hands of ordinary people who can use it every day.
Sure.
These maps are on the Internet. They're free. Anyone can follow these maps real easy. The zones are very, very clear to see. And then you've got to get your timing factor in. And your timing factor is, to understand.
All right, listen, there are thousands of people accessing my Internet page. Maybe you would just want to put the maps up for download or observation on my Internet page. Would that be easier for you?
Right now? I can't do it right now. I don't have access.
Not this very moment.
Oh, yeah. Oh, right. Okay, sure.
Within days.
Yeah, tomorrow we'll do it.
Okay, good. So there you go. Now, how hard are the times ahead going to be?
Very, very hard. And I'll tell you why, because we have, well, even if we were not having these cyclic changes, we would be in for some very rough times because of the environmental damage that we've caused. And I don't want to go into a crusade about the environmental damage, but it's there.
Well, don't be afraid to say what you feel. When you say environmental damage, what have we done?
Well, the algae is dying in the sea. Do you know what that means?
I'm afraid I do, actually, yes.
You know, that's an enormous source of oxygen. We have these incredible epidemics that are occurring because of the rainforest being cut down. In other words, we have upset an already delicate balance.
Mm-hmm.
And we are going to have high winds. I believe it. Now, I'm talking psychic now. I can see the high winds, you know. We're going to have...
You can see them. When you say you can see them, I always want to stop and I want to ask you, what do you mean you can see them?
Well,
you mean in your mind's eye,
yes.
Psychically? How do you see them?
Psychically. Yeah, psychically I know that they're coming.
Gordon Michael Scallion predicted the worst hurricane season ever. In fact, I believe it was an exact tie with the world's worst recorded hurricane season ever. He predicted Vesuvius and Etna would erupt. They did.
Yes.
He predicts dire circumstances if a certain cycle of earthquakes are fulfilled, and they're well on their way.
Yes.
And so, Gordon, yourself, others, predicting all of this in the short term. Now, the Mayan calendar, did you say 2012?
2012 in the winter solstice, which is in December, at the end of December.
All right.
So it's essentially 13 years into the next millennia.
All right. I want you to take a couple of calls and questions from the audience, okay? All right, so let us do that. West of the Rockies, you're on the air with Krsana Duran. Hi.
Hi, Art.
Yes.
This is Nancy. I'm calling from a little tiny town called Syed Valley, 15 miles south of the Oregon border.
Hi, Nancy.
Yes, I have a question for Krsana. I've been subscribing to a newsletter that she reports in, so I know somewhat about her writings. And I wanted to ask about the magnetics. I've been meditating about 8 years now, and I can feel a tremendous shift in just magnetic awareness, especially in my forehead, a very, very strong pull.
Right.
And I just wanted to ask you, most people who don't meditate or aren't aware of this may think you're kind of nuts if you think this stuff. I just wondered if this is part of the shift that's occurring that so many certain people do have more of a sensitivity to this.
Exactly, and we were just talking about the magnetic microparticles in the brain.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to go into a lot of esoteric information on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, the body is surrounded by a subtle energy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's affected by magnetics also.
Okay. So this is picking up on the shift that is occurring at this point.
I think it is. I really do. And I as I said, I think that our actual frequency, the actual frequency of the physical energy is shifting, so that our mental processes are occurring in a different frequency. And I don't mean that in an esoteric manner. I mean that in an absolute literal sense of the word.
Mm-hmm.
And people who don't understand the process of thought and how their minds work and how thought is generated can panic. They can get very confused And I think confusion is a big part of the phenomena when people don't understand what's going on.
I think the phenomena itself actually causes a great deal of confusion.
Exactly.
And I see it all around me. I really do. I hear it all around me. The headlines are full of it all around all of us, and so I believe it to be true. Wildcard Line, you're on the air with Krsana Duran. Hi.
Yes, yeah, I got a question here, and it's something that I found in the Bible, and I'm really wondering about it, if she knows anything about it.
All right, where are you, sir?
I'm from Merced, California.
All right.
And it's about Ezekiel. In chapter 1 and chapter 2, he talks about these 4 living creatures that came from the heavens that resemble man, and they came out of flying wheels.
Right, the wheels within wheels?
Yes.
All right, very familiar with those passages. Are the wheels within the wheels, Krsana, the UFOs that are being seen now in Mexico and may have been here so long ago?
Well, frankly, since I wasn't there, I'd have to make an educated guess to say probably.
Probably, huh?
Probably. Because, that's the UFOs, Carl Jung, the psychologist, did a paper in the 50s called Flying Saucers, Myths of Things Seen in the Sky.
Right.
And one of the things that just absolutely astounded him was the incredible similarity between the shapes of UFOs and the shapes of the most fundamental images of human experience, cosmic eggs, and that they are also the same shape as galaxies and the structure of space. There's just certain structures that are universal because they work.
There are some people, Krsana, who say this is something that can be avoided, that whatever changes lie ahead or disaster lies ahead can be changed with human thought and with human participation in becoming more, spiritual, if not religious, but spiritual. Are you of that school of thought, or would you say that what lies ahead inevitably, and we are no more in control of it than we are the bad winter we're having right now?
Well, the bad winter is a perfect example because, yes, we're having a bad winter, but the way you deal with that bad winter makes a big difference.
Right.
I do believe that people, and there's evidence with meditation groups that meditation groups have been taken to war zones.
Oh, yes.
And they'll find that there'll be less violence in their sphere of activity, where the people are meditating. So humans really do influence their environment, but the environment influences them. And it's not an either-or kind of deal. It's like we should be cooperating. We understand that we're not the beginning and end of anything.
In other words, relax and enjoy it because it's going to occur. Krsana, stay right where you are. We'll be right back to you. Back now to Krsana. And Krsana, are you there?
I am.
All right, let's take some more calls. East of the Rockies, you're on the air with Krsana Duran. Hello?
Hello?
Hello? Yes? Ma'am, hello? I guess not. We'll go on. West of the Rockies, you're on the air with Krsana Duran. Hello?
Hello?
Turn your radio off, please.
I will.
Okay, good for you.
I wanted to talk to Art.
That is me. Where are you?
I'm in Yakima, Washington.
Yakima. Okay, well, here we are.
I want to talk to Art.
I'm Art.
Oh, you're Art? You don't sound like Art on the phone.
I'm sorry to disappoint you. Now,
you're not disappointing me. I listen to you every night of my life. Okay, Art, what I want to know is I want to take your trip, but I want to fly to Moscow with you. Yeah, that's the way I'll do it. I'm widowed. I travel the world, and I want to go to St. Petersburg, which is part of the world I have not been.
Uh-huh.
But if you fly to Moscow, I'll take your trip and I'll fly to Moscow with you. And I'm not a threat. I'm 68 years old, and I'm not a threat.
All right. Well, listen, we've got a guest on right now, dear.
I know you do.
Do you have a question for her?
I don't, because I've been trying to get to you for so gosh darn long.
Okay. Well, look, you come to Moscow with me. We'll do it. I'm up for it. I'm game. Thank you very much for the call. East of the Rockies, you're on the air with Krsana Duran. Where are you calling from, please?
Southeastern Michigan.
Oh, boy. How cold is it, sir?
It's probably about 20 below.
20 below?
Yeah.
Wonderful. I saw a demonstration earlier tonight of somebody in about 45 or 50 below, and they threw hot water into the air, and I've been telling people for years you can do it, and it came down as ice crystals. It's a serious winter we're having this winter. Anyway, do you have a question?
Yeah, I do, kind of.
All right, kind of. Go ahead.
It's for your guest, and I'm wondering if she can think back, it's quite a few years ago, and see if anything significant was going on in this particular time. It would have been late October of 1978 in the Midwest or something like that, in the Michigan area, as far as UFO activities or anything like that.
Oh, good question, and I know why you're asking.
Well, I'd like to talk to you or her off the air if I could, but...
Well, you can't, so...
Okay, well, if you could... And I'd like to hang on and listen if I could and maybe comment.
All right, thank you. Krsana?
Well, honestly, I don't know why he's asking that question, and in my mind, back then, I had no awareness of UFOs. I had just no interest and no knowledge. So it doesn't ring a bell. I know the activity that's been occurring up there in the last year. Actually, I guess 2 years now. It's just been phenomenal.
It has been. And so tell her, why are you asking?
Well, I kind of had a personal experience, and I really don't want to comment too much on it.
All right. Well, that's fine, sir. We appreciate it. Without your comment, though, it's hard to respond. First-time caller line, you're on the air. Hi.
Pete Oakland. And look, that's not
I don't know what that is. West of the Rockies, you're on the air with Krsana Duran. Hello. Hello there. Going once, going twice, going 3 times. East of the Rockies, you're on the air with Krsana Duran.
Yes, this is Jeff from Arkansas.
Hello, Jeff. How's Arkansas?
Cold, very cold. Yeah, I had a question concerning a prediction by Nostradamus. I was wondering, does she foresee anything happening around this time where he predicted, I don't know if this could possibly be a UFO or what have you, but he predicted a destroyer coming out of the sky in November of 1999.
Well, that correlates with the biblical prophecies of wormwood, and it would be very likely to happen if we were, like, we have had the comets coming in and a lot of asteroid activity, and I don't, the dream spell postulates an asteroid, that we're moving into an asteroid belt. It includes the asteroid belt, or the asteroid, between over by Mars.
You know about Hale-Bopp.
Oh, yeah.
Does Hale-Bopp potentially timeline-wise fit into anywhere special?
Absolutely.
Where?
Well, remember, I was talking about an internal underlying timing sequence of the whole system, of the solar system, right?
Right.
Well, Hale-Bopp, I have heard rumors since 1985 of a planetoid basically coming towards the Earth that has been watched by the big telescopes. Mm-hmm. And I think that is Hale-Bopp. They've been aware of it for a long time. But what is important is that it came within viewing sight of amateur telescopes near Jupiter in the month of July.
That's fact. And it is now, I believe, behind the sun, getting ready to reemerge, and so we will see it again.
Now, I want to point out that the year before that in July, we had a real important event with Jupiter, which was Shoemaker-Levy. So what is occurring is that in July 26, 1992, Jose and Loydine Arguelles built a time shift into the dream spell. They took the old Mayan paradigm and they said, okay, the time is shifting, and we're going to calibrate this time shift, and we're going to commence the new year on July 26, 1992, every year.
Krsana, we are out of time.
Okay.
So, Krsana, I want to thank you. You have underscored what so many others have said on this program.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you, and good night up in the Seattle area.
You're listening to Art Bell, Somewhere in Time on Premier Radio Networks. Tonight, an encore presentation of Coast to Coast AM from February 2nd, 1996.